Hello YouTube, welcome to RV Daydream. Back of my F-150. What does most trucks have and most cars? Well, at least these days, they have a hitch on the back of them. Well, when I'm not towing an RV, I might be using a mobility scooter. Now, in my case, I don't need a mobility scooter, but there's going to come a day that I do. I have done reviews on mobility scooters before. I've got one right here. And let me show you the problem that you may run into.
What have you been up to?
I've been riding on a daydream.
This is considered a portable mobility scooter. It's pretty big. Now, I can remove the arms. I can remove the seat that folds down. I can fold down the handle. I can remove the battery, and it'd make this much lighter. But as far as portable, I still don't go 100% on that, because right now I don't need a mobility scooter, and even with all that stuff removed, I would have a rough time actually picking this up and putting it in my truck, or especially in the back of a car. I have another mobility scooter that's even more portable, but that thing still weighs out about 80 pounds. I don't know a lot of people that are in mobility scooters that might be able to lift 80 pounds. So the obvious thing that you'd have to do is buy yourself a vehicle that has a special lift in it. A lot of times, people can't afford to change their vehicle just based on that. And they have a vehicle that has a hitch on it back, which is a Class 2 hitch, and they have the ability to do something about this whole problem that they run into. Well, I'm going to show you a solution that's above a normal wheelchair and mobility scooter carrier, but doesn't break the bank of what it costs to get your van outfitted with a complete onboard scooter lift. This is an in-between, and I think it's a good compromise. This is from a company called OUTFITR. So it's the word out, the word fit together with a letter R on the end. So OUTFITR. They usually do bike racks, and they do a lot of bike racks. And initially I was going to do a review on a bike rack because I do a lot of reviews on electric bikes. But when I seen that they had an electric lift for wheelchairs and scooters, I thought, this might be the solution to some of the comments that I got on the reviews that I've done with the mobility scooters. And a lot of that comes down to, hey, even though you say it's portable, I can't necessarily lift that. Well, this would solve that. There is some assembly required. It comes in a couple boxes. The main reason is because this platform is so big, and it does accommodate pretty good size mobility scooters and wheelchairs. It's got a real nice ratcheting system. We're going to see all that. We'll put it in operation. It'll go up and down. But before we do any of that, I'm going to give you a couple of things to think about, and you might be tuning out of the video right away. The whole reason I'm telling you this is so you don't watch the whole video and find out, man, I can't even use that. Okay, three things. Let's say three. First of all, you have to have a Class 2 hitch. Now that doesn't mean when you have the little square hitch on the back of your Subaru that you can put in one of those adapters that bumps it up to a larger size. That's not how that works. A Class 2 hitch needs to have all that size so that there's no metal fatigue that shows up because it's a smaller amount of metal trying to do the same job of lifting that kind of weight. So that's the first thing. You have to have a Class 2 hitch. The second thing is, your vehicle has to be able to carry a certain amount of weight. Now, even though this lift is rated to carry 350 pounds, okay, that's a lot. That mobility scooter that I just showed you there, that's off camera now, that thing's only maybe 90 pounds. 350, that's a considerable, that's a lot. But here's the thing. When you have just this product on there alone, this is about 108 pounds, the whole system. So you're going to have 108 pounds on your Class 2 hitch. So now you're up to, if you have the max, 458 pounds. And I'm going to tell you that most vehicles, believe it or not, other than some good size SUVs, most vehicles don't have that kind of tongue weight. That's what you're going to refer to it as. The tongue weight, the weight that's going to be pushing down on your hitch, on your car. You have to be able to handle the 100-pound lift plus whatever your mobility scooter is. The third thing, you have to have, once this is assembled, at least 12 inches of clearance. Well, it's a little bit bigger, but let's try that. 12 inches of clearance between the lowest part of the lift and the ground. Now, not to fear, if you don't have that clearance, you can buy one of those slip-in style hitch relocators that will make a receiver that's just like the one that's on this truck now, but just a little higher. So you'll be able to put your mobility scooter on that setting so it gets up in there and lifts it off the ground, and you don't have to worry about going down into, into a driveway that might drop off. We've been into plenty of places like that. Everybody's been driving and have gone into a shopping plaza or into a driveway or friend's driveway, and when they go in, there's a big dip, and the back of the vehicle actually comes close to the ground. Well, if you have a hitch that's only a few inches off the ground, it's a good chance it could hit. So there are solutions to the problems, but the thing that you can't get around is you're not able to increase the tongue weight of your vehicle. So whatever you plan on hauling, plus 108 pounds is what your hitch has to be rated for. I'm going to talk to a group of people that might not even be thinking about a mobility scooter. I have a friend that I've been talking to, and I mentioned to him about this lift, and he brought up a very good point. And he says, I have a friend that has one of those lifts, and he uses it all winter long with his landscaping company because he doesn't like to lift his snowblower in and out of the back of his truck. You know, some of these snowblowers, these dual stage snowblowers, they're pretty big and they weigh about 200 pounds. But the idea is that he can put it on the back of one of these, on a rack like this, a lift, and actually have the ability to transport to the next location and then just roll it off and do his clearing and then put it back when he's finished. The other thing is maybe push mowers. If you're at an RV park, you might have to go to the campground and mow your lot, and you bring your mower with you. Well, if you have a car, it's kind of tough to put that mower in the trunk of your car. A truck's another story, but even with that, you got to lift it up pretty high. So these things are pretty versatile. There's a lot of uses for them, but we're just going to show you what it's designed for, and that's a mobility scooter. I know that there's going to be an instruction booklet that explains all the assembly, but more importantly, take a look at this quick little blip of a video, and this is going to show you step by step from their website how to assemble this lift. Now, there might be some steps that are glazed over a little bit, but you get the idea. You should be able to assemble, I always say this, at least a bicycle. And that gives you the mechanical skills that you can go ahead and assemble this. But with the help of that video, a lot of people are visual learners. That might help you get to the point where this thing is finished. Okay, so first we're going to look at the contents of the big flat box. Obviously, you can see the platform itself, and it's pretty substantial. That's a pretty good size. The wheels are supposed to sit inside this cradle area. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I like the ratchet system. It looks very nice. I like that it's protected as much as possible. So you can see the different components that came in that flat box in some smaller boxes. You have hardware, pretty standard. This goes with the hitch, I can tell, because it has threads. That's so it doesn't rattle around as much. It keeps it from moving. And then as far as your bolts here, this is going to be for the folding mechanism. This is going to be for, I think, the power system, which is in the other box, which we'll get that out next. I want you to pay attention, though, to these nuts and bolts. Obviously, this one and these three are different, but this one, too, is different than these three. It's a little bit smaller, so pay attention to that. Then, of course, 4 screws. So now let's go ahead and get into the other box. Okay, I went ahead and removed some styrofoam from the top of this, but this is more than obvious. the business end of things. This is where the motor is housed for the lift. You can see it has Anderson style connectors for the cables. You do have an emergency crank. This is no different than most of us RVers. We have an emergency crank for our tongue jacks. Same premise with that. And then you have these heavy duty cables, and they're pretty long. They are pretty long, of course, with the Anderson connection. But on the other end, you have your positive and negative. And this needs to go to a battery or a very strong 12-volt source. You can see the size of the cable. So it's a good idea that you have some sort of battery supply to run this. Now, you can get a small AGM or a small lithium battery, and I'm sure it would do just fine if you want to do that. Of course, you have to have a means of charging it, but still, this is a pretty good size motor that's in here to lift all that weight. So you want to make sure this is connected to a good battery connection. Don't think you're going to connect this up to something small on the back of your truck or car and it's going to power it. This has to go to a really solid positive and negative hookup. And by the length of this cable, I'm assuming that they want you to go all the way to a battery source. Why else would they give you this much cable? Okay, so for demonstration reasons, and possibly this might be the way you want to do it, there is a jumper pack that I can just recharge from the wall. And it does have a little battery in there. It does fine. It'll last quite a bit. And once you go through the assembly process, you're going to get to the final point in which you're mounting it to your hitch. Now, when you mount it to the hitch, as I mentioned before, there's a threaded bolt that you'll use. It's not completely threaded, just the portion of it. And what you'll do is you'll actually go into the hitch receiver with this as like it's a hitch pin, but then once it gets in so far, it'll catch the threads of the device, inside here, and you'll be able to tighten it and actually get to where this thing won't rattle near as much. Okay, so here we have it in its full form. It does have a key to make sure that nobody can screw with it when it's off. As far as the ramp itself or the platform itself, it can be adjusted with these nuts, and they're an Allen headed on this side, to where you can slide this out. I should say, move it out to a further point if your mobility scooter don't fit securely in here. Like I said, the wheels have to fit inside this cradle. So the platform right now, usable part of the platform from this lip in to the edge here of the metal, I'm talking about the actual frame, is 27.5 inches. So from front to rear, it's 27.5. When you get this shipped to you, it is 38 inches from this point to the other. And then you can extend this part out further to 46 inches. It says that you can raise your scooter in 20 seconds when the scooter's on there. It says 6 seconds whenever there's nothing on it at all. Well, it did go up pretty fast, I have to say that. Again, it has all these ratchet straps. All the stuff pivots around to give you, to where you can connect to your scooter relatively easy. Okay, this rod here, when it's in this position, when you have a chair on there, you want it in this position, pointed towards the hitch. That is a locked position that will not allow this tray to lift on its own. And I'm lifting on the tray trying to get it to fold. However, when you want it to fold, you move this to the unlocked position and then just start raising the whole mechanism. So you can see what that looks like. We'll do the reverse of it. Go ahead and put this in the unlock. Now that it's free, I can go ahead and start dropping it down. The lower you go, the more it's going to free it up and allow it to continue to go down. Once you're in a completely down state, you then can put the lock on there and it'll keep it locked. I couldn't lift this if I wanted to. The whole mechanism wants to move. All right, now, when it's in this position, there's another quick release pin that's back here. It has a cotter key or a hair clip on it, I guess you could say, and a quick release pin that's on a tether. So you can just take them out and let them dangle, but look at this. Now, I've got my electrical cord wrapped around my bumper here, so obviously you're gonna have to have enough room with your electrical, but check this out. Now, why in the world would anybody want to do this? Well, to be able to get in their car. Now, in my case, I don't know if the tailgate's gonna hit or not. Let's check it out. Yeah, the tailgate hits, but on a car, your tailgate's gonna lift up, the hitchback, and I'm talking about an SUV. But I'm sure that I could mess around with that and make it clear with just a small adapter, tell you the truth. But I like the idea that they give you the option to fold this down and out of the way if needed. There we go. All right. So now most of you don't have to necessarily drive up on it. I mean, that's up to you. These work even when people are off of them. Usually they don't have a safety switch in the seat like a lawnmower would. But once you're driven up on here and you think it looks like it's pretty secure, I wouldn't strap it down quite yet. As long as those back tires are in the cradle, it looks like to me that since these are a little bit bigger wheels and tires, I would probably want to make that cradle slightly bigger maybe. But it does look like it's in there pretty good. So let's go ahead and raise this up at this point. Let's see what that looks like. And that's it. It is up on there. So once you have this on here, the instructions show that the ratchet straps should go up and over the seat. Well, I guess it could. I mean, my seat is adjustable. I have a pin in there that I can pull to remove the seat if I want to. But the reason they do that is because a lot of these seats have removable cushions. And if you're driving down the road, you can imagine that this thing's gonna potentially fly off. You know, you're going to lose your seat cushions, but most of these cushions are also easily removable because they're not wanting to get them wet. You don't want to get this wet. I mean, if the scooter's out in the rain, it might happen, but you don't want your seats to be wet whenever you get to wherever you're going at. So I would probably remove those. The arms, they're okay. They're going to stay all right. And then you can run the ratchet strap up and over the seat into the other one. You could go around the wheels and tires. You could probably go around the body. In this case, I could go up and over the battery. Lots of things that you could do here. So the way the ratchet strap works is you actually push this button and push it down until it disengages. So it's got to be completely down to disengage. I'm just going to go all the way over. I'm going to connect to the other side of the ramp. And then go ahead and ratchet it down, which at that point, it just works like a normal ratchet. Nice. That's pretty darn secure, I'll have to say that. And that's just with one strap. The nice thing is this aluminum plate does have holes in it so that you got a lot of different places to secure it at if you want to do it that way. Wow, that is really snug, and that's only two. That's only two ratchets. So there you have it. It is all secure. Let's go ahead and pull this thing out into the yard a little bit, or out into the driveway, and see what it looks like. Pretty good securement of this. I really like the idea that you could have yourself the ability to travel and move around a lot easier than if you were just trying to do it by loading it up in the back of the vehicle. And again, you don't have to worry so much about this length, because once you get to where you're going, you've seen the scooter can come off, and then you can, at that point, fold it up and out of the way. I really like this whole setup. So the links are going to be down below for this. As you've seen throughout the video, links popping up all the time. Click the link, it'll take you right to this device. And if I have any kind of discount code, I'll go ahead and include that. I don't think that I do, but it's worth a look. And on top of that, I see a lot of times that they're offering a lot of sales. So again, we're talking about OUTFITR. It is an alternative to loading and unloading manually. As always, guys, we hope to see you out there. Bye.